Welcome back, children, once again. This is Ansu here. This time we'll be seeing the second part of Chapter 7, Introduction to Programming. Today we'll be discussing two main things. They are flowchart and object-oriented programming. In the last video, we saw what is a pseudocode and an example using pseudocode, that is to add two numbers. Here is another example for you. Sushant wants to write a computer program to compare two positive numbers. Before writing a program, he wants to write a pseudocode. Can you help Sushant write the pseudocode? Here you need to write a program to compare two numbers. So first thing what we have to discuss is the logic, how to write the program. The first thing the program should check is if the two numbers are positive. If the two numbers are positive, they should be compared. Else, the output invalid input should be displayed. For comparing two positive numbers, the first thing that you should do is you have to check if the two numbers are positive. If they are positive, then they should be compared. If any one is not positive, then the output invalid input should be displayed. So let's go through the pseudocode for this program. Read A. Here A represents the first number. Read B. B represents the second number. If A and B are positive integers, then if A is less than B, then print A is smaller than B, else print B is smaller than A. When you're comparing two positive numbers, and if you find that A is smaller than B, then you have to get the output print A is smaller than B. Otherwise, we have to get the output B is smaller than A. Else, print invalid input. You are first checking whether the numbers are positive. If the numbers are positive, you compare the numbers. Here what you're doing is you're checking whether A is less than B. If A is less than B, then A is smaller than B. Otherwise, B is smaller than A. If any one of it is not a positive number, then invalid input will be the output that you get. Now let's discuss flowchart. A flowchart is a graphical representation of an algorithm. It uses different shapes to represent the steps of the algorithm. These shapes are connected to each other with the help of flow lines. The different components of a flowchart are. That is, a flowchart is used to represent the algorithm in a graphical manner. It uses different types of shapes to show the different steps for the algorithm. These steps are connected with the help of flow lines. Now let's go through the different types of boxes that are being used, the shape name and the description. The first one is this one. Can you look at my cursor? This is the first one that we need to study. This is the start-stop box. The start-stop box indicates the beginning and end of the program. It indicates the beginning of the program and the end of the program. So when you want to start and stop a program, this is the box that you need to use. Then parallelogram, that is an input-output box. The input and output box is used to accept input and display output. It is used to accept the input values. A and B are two input values, and the printing command, all those comes under the input-output parallelogram shape. The next shape is the rectangle shape. It shows processing. The processing box is used to write the processing instructions and calculations. It is used to write the instructions and the calculations. Then you have the rhombus shape, that is the decision or condition box. The decision or condition box is used to check conditions in a program. It is used to check if a particular condition is working or not. In the before example, we first checked whether both the numbers are positive. In such cases, such decision boxes are being used. The flow lines are used to connect the different shapes of a flowchart. They also show the flow of the program. They indicate how the program is continuing. And then there are connectors. Connectors are used to connect one part of the flowchart to another. It connects one part of the flowchart to the other part of the flowchart. You need to study these symbols very carefully. Now, let's see an example based on it, shall we? Sushant has written the pseudocode to compare two numbers. Now he wants to draw a flowchart that will represent the flow of the program graphically. Can you help Sushant draw the flowchart? The program starts with the start box and finishes with the stop box. So the start-stop box is used for this process. Whatever input that you give to the program should be in parallelograms. So parallelogram is applied here. You need to read two numbers A and B. Then comes the decision box. You are first checking whether both the numbers are positive. So you are checking whether A and B is greater than 0. If it is greater than 0, it is a positive number. If it is no, you will give the output as invalid input. And can you see that it comes to stop immediately after that. If any one of the numbers is not positive, invalid input will be your output and it will stop. The program will finish there. When the comparison is done and if both numbers are positive, then we check if A is greater than B. If it is yes, then B is smaller than A. If it is no, then A is smaller than B. Once you get this, it is connected to stop. That is, you will get the output as B is smaller than A if the A is greater than B, or A is smaller than B if B is greater than A. Now let's discuss object-oriented programming. The process of writing a computer program is called programming. The way in which you write your computer program is called programming. There are two types of programming. They are procedural programming and object-oriented programming. You should study this by heart. There are two types of programming available. They are procedural programming and object-oriented programming. First one is object. Procedural programming contains a systematic order of statements, functions and commands to complete the program. On the other hand, object-oriented programming is based on objects. This is the main difference between procedural programming and object-oriented programming. In procedural programming, there is a systematic way in which you have to write the program and the functions and commands are there to complete the program for you. But in the case of object-oriented programming, it is always based on objects. That is, there are objects placed for special functions. You just need to use that to get the program done. For example, our hand is an object that can perform various things such as eating food, typing on the computer, writing in notebook, holding things, etc. In OOP, an object is an instance of a class. It is an instance of a class of things. There are a lot of things in that class. This is only one among them. The next thing that we have to discuss is class. A class is a representation of a type of object. Class represents the type of the object. It is a template that describes the details of an object. A class comprises of three things. Every class comprises of three things. They are name, attribute and operations. It has three main things. They are name, attribute and operations. Let's create a class for the object hand. The name, attributes and operations of the object are. Now let's do for the example of the hand. Can you look at the example here? The class name is hand and the attributes of the hand are fingers, nails, palm and wrist. And the operations of the hand that we know are, you use it to eat food, type text on the computer. OOP is the most widely used approach to develop a software program. The main advantage of OOP is reusability. You can use the same part of the program for other programs too. This is the most widely used approach in programming. You can reuse the code as many number of times as you want. In a single program itself, you can repeat the code many number of times. Some of the popular OOP languages are C++, Java, C, PHP, etc. With this, we come to the end of this presentation and the end of this chapter. Please go through these things and understand the concept. Thank you.